that would be my word of advice to all my people I teach yoga to. There's no such thing as the perfect way to look. It's about what's right for your body, and that's the type of yoga that's best for you.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Serving Up Trouble. My name is Chloe Ireland. I'm your host, and this is the podcast about everything women's table tennis. Today's episode is something completely different than anything that we've done on the podcast so far, and that's because we're not talking solely about table tennis. Today's episode is actually about the practice of yoga and how yoga can assist your table tennis, how it can enhance your table tennis, and how it can prevent injury and improve flexibility. And to do that, we're talking to Lisa Harwood. Lisa came to table tennis through her son, but since then she's become a big advocate for practicing yoga within the sport, not just for the physical benefits, but for the mental ones too. She's a nurse who's also developed her own program, Yoga for Me, focusing on accessibility, especially for those with learning disabilities. She's currently done a couple of sessions with the Table Tennis Wales squad on summer camps and in some of their training sessions, and she's posted some of her table tennis yoga routines for free online. And stay tuned to the end, because she's also sent some exclusively for our podcast for you guys to enjoy that I'm going to include at the end of this video and also be posting online. So I really hope that you enjoy today's episode. Let's get on with the show. I'm really excited to be chatting with Lisa today and learning all about yoga, because I must admit, completely new frontier for me. I know absolutely nothing. So that's where I'm going to start with you today. Could you please just explain what yoga is? I think, I've got an idea of what yoga looks like in my head, and it's standing on their heads, doing all this crazy stuff. So please introduce yoga for us.
Oh, well, big thank you, Chloe, for inviting me today to talk about yoga. Yes, I came to yoga later in life after I took up running, and I found that I needed something to give me a little bit of strength, and I was running longer distances, and came into yoga via that route. Typical nurse, very nosy, wanted to know how it worked and why it worked, and ended up becoming a yoga teacher. So yoga is essentially a mind and body practice. Has its history in Eastern culture. And it's been significantly westernized, really, over the last, I suppose, 50 years, where people assume or see yoga as being the very tall, gorgeous, leggy ladies who are very flexible and put their legs behind their necks, or a lot of acrobatic yoga is portrayed on social media, and it isn't that at all. So yoga philosophy is about understanding our bodies and ourselves. So what's going on in our bodies, breath work, our breathing, bringing in some self-awareness, but using the physical movements, and also relaxation to understand how our body is and how we can actually move it and keep it in its best shape, really. The yoga philosophy only had the yoga movements that we're so accustomed to seeing as a very small part of the text. So the aim of all the yoga moves that we see, or the asana that they're called, is mainly to tire out the body, ready for relaxation and meditation. So it really has a reason for those movements. But what we have realized as time's gone by is that the benefits that yoga has to not just us individually in everyday life, but also for sporting people as well, and specifically for high performance athletes. It's used considerably in football. You'll often see on Instagram that there are plenty of yoga teachers who teach for football or are associated to respective football clubs, and it's gradually being introduced into other sports where the athletes are taking on yoga as a way of lengthening their careers, maintaining their flexibility, and minimizing injury. So they get these benefits from yoga from sort of 5 key areas, really. First of all, yoga is concerned with our breath work, our breathing. and being mindful in our movements and how we move and how our body feels, and bringing in that self-awareness. And you'll often find out in sort of in the public arena, there's lots of apps for mindfulness and apps. It's now become sort of a standalone practice, as has meditation, but they have their basis in yoga, and yoga brings everything together. So we can bring in the mindfulness and the breath work. We can then bring in the sort of flexibility in, we prepare the body for movement. So we do some stretching and come into that asana or the movements or the flows and those poses that you see yoga practitioners move into, and then come into relaxation at the end, where we again review how our body feels after going through a yoga practice. It's something that people use usually as a regular practice. It isn't going to give anybody an overnight difference to the body. It's a longer term way of life, really, but it does have the opportunity to be adapted to whatever way you want to. As you mentioned, I've adapted mine to teach to people with special education needs, and the same for table tennis.
Can you talk us through kind of how you came to table tennis, now working with the Wales team, which is really, really cool. So can you talk us a little bit about what you're doing with the team, how yoga and table tennis meld, and what kind of benefits can players that are listening get from yoga practices?
Absolutely. So my son plays table tennis and has played from the age of 4. And throughout his life, I've been a yoga teacher as well as a as a nurse. So he's watched me or helped me in my training, and has practiced with me. It was brought to sort of the table tennis back before COVID, with Nathan Thomas at Cardiff City Table Tennis Club at the time, who was keen to introduce it to the young players at the club. And then during COVID, as we all moved online, I did sessions for the table tennis players online. And then more recently, the coaches at Table Tennis Wales have become more interested in the benefits of yoga sort of personally, and have invited me to come and share it with the team at one of the evening sessions, to act as a sort of in their end of session stretching and cool down period. So we brought in yoga to sort of bring the training session to a close, and for the group to really understand how their body feels and to start noticing how yoga could actually benefit them after they've worked hard for 2 or 3 hours, really. Each sport has a very different focus in the demands on different parts of the bodies, and in particular in table tennis, as a parent and as a yoga teacher, I can see the demands sort of that generally the upper body, sort of the shoulder movements, depending on whether which arm you play with, as well as then the whole body sort of need for strength, agility, and keeping that whole body in its peak condition, as well as the mind, because the mind is also a key part of the table tennis sport and can really influence how players succeed or maybe don't, because it's such a high speed game that actually there are very little differences as the between players as they get to that higher level of play. So we always start off with some breath work. We then focus on our shoulder movements. So we're looking at keeping that shoulder mobility and keeping the body in balance, because when there is a unilateral demand on the player's body, you can start to notice that an equal sort of muscular buildup or tension or tightness on one side of the body than the other. So we work on bringing in balance and focusing on the shoulder movements, maintaining that shoulder mobility, and minimizing tightness and the potential for injury. And also then bringing in sort of the work in relation to the core strength, so focusing on moves that help with the core, and also hip flexors, hip flexibility, the quads and the hamstrings. So we're looking at the overall sort of tightness within the body. And what I do ask for the squad members is to actually look at their bodies as well. So when we sit down with our crossed legs, it's quite easy for them to suddenly see and compare themselves to their fellow players in actually, well, how tight are my hips? Because how high are my knees when I cross my legs? Oh, and you know, but so-and-so can get their legs a little bit lower because their hips aren't quite so tight. And it's interesting so they can see and feel how their bodies are. But bringing in yoga at that level can keep that mobility or bring in that flexibility over a long time practice and minimize then the risk of injury from that intensity of training that table tennis players do engage in. You know, they stick out and they work hard.
Yes, as I'm sure you know from watching your son play and do that. Can you tell us a little bit about, so you mentioned a few things there. It's like the flexibility, but also how important is flexibility and relaxing your muscles, not just for playing and on the table, but also for that important thing that you just said about recovery and injury prevention? Because I think that's a big thing that maybe we don't talk about as much. I know there are definitely some clubs out there that kind of skip doing the warm up, skip doing the cool down. So can you talk us a little bit about why flexibility is important, maybe from watching your son and how his flexibility has improved on the table, but also in that realm of injury prevention and why that's important?
One of the biggest barriers to doing yoga that I hear from a lot of people is, I'm not flexible. I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible. And that's not the case. Everybody can do yoga. It brings in flexibility with the practice. So if you're not flexible, doing yoga will help you become more flexible and give you that movement. But what that flexibility brings in is the ability to maintain movement, moving all the joints into the positions that you want. So it maintains your ability to play at the level of table tennis that you want to play at. So it's suitable for all players of all ages. There is no restriction for yoga to younger teenagers or children, or all the way to elderly, to the vets. It helps you maintain your agility, your ability and your strength throughout your entire table tennis career. And I think that's important for community as well, for people maintaining their social networks and staying within their sport with their friends. So the flexibility aspect is about the movement. In warm-ups, I do see the players use a dynamic warm-up, so they are making those free movements. It's not a static situation. It's bringing in warmth, bringing in blood flow, getting those muscles warmed up, getting them moving. And within that, yoga can help to support and enhance that warm-up phase. There's a little video that I've got on the sun salutations, which I always use at the start of my yoga classes to warm up the body. In the UK, we're in a cold environment. Our bodies are generally quite cold, and we need that warming up. And the sun salutations certainly get the heart moving, get the body moving, and not just one part of the body. All the body from head to foot gets a whole of the body moving and ready, so that warm-up makes sure that the body is ready for the hard work. All those muscles are ready. They're pumped. They're full of blood and oxygen. They're warmed up. They're ready for that movement and that level of intensity in practice then. And coming into sort of cooling down phase, it gives the muscles time to recover. So after all that hard work, what we're doing is allowing the muscles to not suddenly cool down and go cold and constrict and contract and to become tight. What we're doing is allowing them the time to lengthen and to let them relax at a slower speed. So we're preventing and minimizing that tightness coming back in. and letting that body recover. And there are so many different yoga moves that I can use, or any yoga teacher uses, to allow the athletes to do that. So there's not one specific yoga pose that I would demonstrate, but I would show a couple. And I have attached a video with a couple of 3 poses that I would use for specific target areas, with the shoulders, the hips, for the hip flexors, and for the quads and hamstrings. So there are different yoga poses or asana that specifically work on different parts of the body, and they can be all integrated into a yoga class or movement to enhance the training program of table tennis players.
And you kind of mentioned before about some table tennis players being a little bit one-sided, especially with you have your dominant arm. A lot of the work that you're doing in a training session, especially if you're training a lot, is working one side of the body more than the other. So how important is that balance really? Why does it matter that we're also looking at that other side of our body?
The balance in the physical body, it's about having the evenness of the body movement, because when you do build up the muscles on one side, you tend to have that tightness, and you have then a weaker side where that strength isn't in. But what we're looking at is having the strength on both sides, so that there isn't that difference, whether it's a visual difference or a difference that you feel. It's about bringing in that level of even and balance in the whole of the body, whether that's in the legs, in the lower body, or in the upper body. But certainly for the shoulders, with the one side, where our dominant hand tends to be our writing hand as well. It takes a dominant hand for everything. And with that build up, and with that intensity of the muscle that are built up in that area, you often find that there is less flexibility because of the muscle mass around that the joint and the movement. And what we want to do is create that flexibility and movement and stop it becoming sort of stiff and tight. And also wear and tear. That's the other thing. When you're playing at such a high level in table tennis, you're working that side hard, and there's the potential for wear and tear, build up wear and tear. But what we want to do is to create that element of balance and allow the body to relax, not just the one side that you work, but both sides together.
On the podcast, we talk a little bit sometimes about body confidence. We're very focused on the women and girls game and things like that. I'm just wondering if you could maybe talk a little bit about maybe women who might be listening to this, and maybe the whole idea of doing yoga and doing poses and things like that makes them a little bit nervous, or they might feel a bit uncomfortable. So what would you say to kind of convince them to give it a go, or what advice would you have for those women that maybe haven't done any yoga before, and maybe the idea of it is a little bit intimidating?
Yeah, I would certainly say give it a go. Select your yoga class in your local community. Have a little look to see what's around. Yoga studios may feel quite threatening. A very glamorous, area where people seem to know everything that they know, but actually they don't. There are lots of new people that go to yoga classes all the time. Find your local yoga class. Maybe there's a beginner's yoga class or course that they run. Go and have a look. Meet the teachers. Find the person that resonates with you, because that's where you're going to get the most out of the yoga class. It doesn't have to be a specific class that's tailored to table tennis. My son comes to my regular yoga class, which consists of, in fact, he's the youngest member of that class, from sort of mid-teens all the way up to 70s. There are one or two men. Predominantly, yoga classes are female. I have to say, unless it's my learning disability class, and then because they don't take in all the social media doesn't influence them and their perceptions of what they can and cannot do. All the men come in and join in anyway. But predominantly, yoga is a female-focused activity. There will be people of all ages, but find someone that you resonate in, that you feel comfortable with. For younger girls, in their teens, if you're unsure, take your ask your mum or your friend to go with you. It's a lovely activity to do with a family member. I have to say, family yoga that I teach as well with teenagers and their parents or aunts, uncles, whoever wants to come. Lovely activity to do together. Nobody's perfect. Everybody's learning constantly. It's about community and it's about having fun doing yoga as well. I get my lefts and rights mixed up. It's like I'm trying to tell you what to do and my left and rights are completely wrong. But you can laugh about it, and it's about enjoying the activity. And as I said earlier, it's not thinking I'm not flexible, I can't go. It's about you go to become flexible, to increase that flexibility as time goes by. It can be an expensive activity. Local yoga classes tend to be less expensive than maybe yoga studios, and certainly in the city areas, and certainly the London areas, they are considerably more expensive than out in sort of the other parts of the UK, for instance. And it's about finding the right one for you. And I am aware as a parent as well how expensive table tennis is, and which is why I have put on some videos for people on my YouTube channel for free access for people to try and see what they like and see whether they enjoy it or not, before they make an investment maybe into something that they may or may not like. Yoga is often seen as the last part of the jigsaw with people's training plans. We focus on strength and conditioning. We focus on cardiovascular conditioning, and also on table. But as an off-table training, it's often and this goes for all athletes. It's often seen as the last thing that people can't find time for. Mm-hmm. But actually, it could be something that really does make a huge difference to you in the future, in helping in minimizing sort of injury and maintaining a longer career.
One of the things that I really liked, looking at your website, and I'm going to make sure that I link your YouTube channel down below so people can see the table tennis set that you've done. But it's a real focus on accessibility. And I wanted to ask you a little bit about the work that you've done with the SEND community and, teaching yoga to people with learning disabilities. So how is it that you kind of adapt your sessions for these communities? Have you got any tips for people that might be looking for some yoga classes and things, or something that's accessible to them?
Oh, absolutely. And even for those who may even teach table tennis to the SEND community, it's about making it fun. And if we don't have fun, then we don't do it. It's the same for us all, whether you've got a learning disability or not. The challenge for teaching yoga to people with learning disabilities is making it not only physically accessible, but also intellectually is presented at their level. So my biggest challenge has been, there's lots of information for children's yoga, and children's yoga does simplify all the movements, all the breath work into very simple terms that children understand. But the graphics that go with that are childlike. They're based for children. But although adults with learning disabilities may think their intellectual age may be at that level, the graphics need to be related to them at their age. So it needs to be age appropriate. And that was always my challenge, was to adapt everything that I saw that from children's yoga into adults yoga. So using age appropriate words, such as one of our movements, which people might be very familiar with anyway, called low lunge, we call proposing pose. So we give them names of positions that they really do relate to in real life, because if they can't relate to it in real life, then it's concepts and things that aren't tangible, aren't really they don't understand. And also the physical movements get broken down. So instead of in my in a class, I would put several different movements together to get the body moving and warmed up. For them, we focus on working through one pose at a time. And we do that via use of a game to keep them engaged and keep them enthused, and that works really well. They enjoy the breath work. They still get the same benefits that we all do in relation to sort of managing anxiety, being able to calm down, enjoying having fun in the yoga poses. It improves their balance, their strength and balance, and also the relaxation they completely, absolutely love, just like everyone. They really do embrace it, and they do relax and lie down and chill out for 10 minutes. And it's from them that I started my PhD in yoga and looking at its impact on balance, standing and walking balance for people with learning disabilities. So it's really they've influenced me probably more than I've influenced them.
Sure, yeah. No, it's really interesting. It's a really interesting subject, and I think we need to look at the ways that we work in terms of making them more accessible to all different kinds of people. And there are some great table tennis clubs out there that are, doing sessions for people with learning disabilities and things like that. So I think it's really nice to know that there's also warm-ups, yoga exercises and things that they could even use alongside their training and practices and things like that. So yeah, really, really interesting to hear. Kind of coming back to the table tennis side of it, we talk about, having an awareness of your body and also the mental aspect. Can you tell us a little bit about how this could maybe be used with a visualization aspect? Because as table tennis players, one of a really good mental exercise is to visualize the point, visualize how you win the point. It's good for tactics as well. Is that something that can be utilized within yoga?
Absolutely. So yoga works on bringing balance into the body and bringing in that element of calmness. So we use the breath for our management of our nervous system in relation to the fight and flight situation. We've got that high adrenaline. So in table tennis, when we are in the sports hall, when we're ready for the game, or we're pre-match preparation, or even in between points, we work with the breath to calm ourselves down, to stimulate the vagus nerve, and to bring in the parasympathetic, or the rest and digest side of the nervous system, and bring in that element of calm. And when we do that, we're more in control. So using slow, steady breaths, whether that's in through the nose and out through the mouth, or if the nose is blocked, using the mouth to let the body calm down. That it's the breath and that will bring in that level of calmness. And one of the visualizations that I like to bring in for the groups is to maybe spend a couple of minutes pre competition or match, or stressful situation. Could be going to do exams, it could be a job interview, it can be used in any situation. Is the eye of the storm. So imagining that you're in that hall, you can hear all the noise and the chaos going on, the sound of the balls, the people that are there, and then bringing in that awareness into yourself, into your body, to your breath. So you let go of all those sounds. Just let them go, but bring that attention to yourself and to your breath, and feel the breath becoming slower and deeper rather than fast and shallow when we're anxious. So letting it calm down and letting it get that little bit slower, and bringing in then that visualization of winning the points, that you're in control. The situation around you isn't in control, but you're in control. And using that to bring in that sense of calm and control to the play. I use that in a longer visualization, but certainly that's the principle of ignoring all that chaos that's going on. Just let it go, let it go, but concentrate on you. Yeah, concentrate on you, and that deep breathing. Whether you if you don't want anybody to know that that's what you're doing, you can put your sunglasses on and just just block everybody out and just concentrate on bringing that sense of calmness and serenity to yourself.
It's a bit like in a previous episode we had a couple of weeks ago, we had a sports psychologist on, and she talked a lot about practicing focus and practicing concentration in day-to-day moments. So even when you're eating, thinking about what you're eating, when you're going for a walk, thinking about the feeling of the pavement or the grass on your feet, and that kind of helps you to learn how to concentrate so that when you're on the table, when you're in that situation, you can bring those skills in. So it's kind of a practicing for the table situation. So I think that really nicely links in with what you've just said there about kind of focusing in. And that's before you get on the table, but I guess it could also apply to when you're 10 all. You're
Yeah.
10 all, you're very stressed. It's a very high intensity situation, and you've got to try and shut out those external things, not think about the score, and focus in on you and what you have to do and the point. So that's exactly the kind of thing that that I think players will find really useful to know about.
Absolutely. And what's the clinical psychologist said, that those are techniques that we use in the yoga class as well, because it's about being in the present, it's being in the now. And that's what yoga brings is, when we practice yoga, we're concentrating on how we are now. So we're not worrying about what we've done in the past or what's going to happen in the future. And when we do our relaxation, I always say, if your mind is telling you things and it's telling you what you should be doing later, just ignore it, just let it go and concentrate back on the breath. Because when the mind has something to focus on, it forgets about telling you all those voices in your head. They go because it's occupied. It's focused on your breath. So it isn't getting you to think about other things. Your mind is doing something different. And the same with meditations, or when I do a guided meditation at the end of the yoga class, essentially telling a story, if you like. The mind is concentrating on my voice and listening. So therefore, you're not hearing all those nagging little thoughts about what you should and shouldn't be doing. So it's really interesting how it all fits in together.
Yeah, definitely. We're nearly out of time for this chat, but you're giving us a couple of videos that we're going to attach to the end of this episode, and I'm also going to post them separately online. Can you talk a little bit about what you filmed for us, and about how they might be useful before we finish off?
Yeah. So the first video I've recorded are the sun salutations. So as I mentioned earlier about the warm up, these can be joined into your regular warm-up routine, and they are a selection of yoga movements that are put together to get the body moving, get the body warmed up, and we do them both sides. So we lead with one leg and then we repeat and we do the other. So it's a lovely movement that can be practiced standalone or as part of another warm-up program, but its focus is for warming up the body. And the second video that I've recorded is demonstrates three different movements in relation to three different parts of the body. So I have shown some shoulder movements, so opening the chest, because we tend to have a lot of closed chest work when we play table tennis. Our shoulders are forward rather than open, and also the shoulder rotation, which I really love using the bat case. No special equipment required. Absolutely none at all. And then I've also included the goddess pose, specifically for our female table tennis players out there, as it's a female podcast. Which will focus on the strength on the legs and the movement in the hips as well. And the final pose that I've demonstrated is the Warrior One, which looks again at lengthening the whole of the body, but certainly looking at lengthening and stretching the hip flexors and the abdomen. So as you're doing these movements, the aim is to take note of how it's feeling in your body, and remember they all have to be done both sides. If they are one-sided, the goddess is done using both sides of the body, so we don't need to worry about that. Yeah. But it is the one-sided, do both sides, and I've demonstrated both sides in the videos. You don't have to look perfectly like me. This is how my body works in yoga. Your body may work slightly different, but move your body into the position that's right for you. And that will be my word of advice to all my people I teach yoga to. There's no such thing as the perfect way to look. It's about what's right for your body. And that's the type of yoga that's best for you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. That's fantastic. Really great that you got to talk to us today. Thank you so much for sending those over. I'll make sure that those are going to just be at the end of this video, at the end of the podcast. And I'm also going to post them separately onto Instagram and TikTok as well, so that people can see them. And I'll make sure to link Lisa's socials and her website and all the lovely stuff that she's doing on YouTube in that as well. So thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's it. And we'll be back next week with another episode. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Lisa, for a fab episode. And now these are the clips that Lisa has provided. So I'm going to be posting these separately up on my Instagram and also on our TikTok page. And if you give them a go, please let us know in the comments. Please share these routines around. I would love it if some clubs are seen to be practicing some of these exercises, giving it a go. So if you guys give it a go at your club, let us know, and maybe we'll talk about you guys next time on the podcast. I think it'd be really great to try and get some inter-club challenges going. And now I'm going to start some background music, and Lisa is going to explain the exercises that she's sent over. So I hope you enjoy these videos, and we'll be back next week for another episode of Serving Up Trouble.
Hi everyone, welcome to this video. I'm Lisa Harwood from Echo Yoga, and I'm a yoga teacher who specialises in teaching adaptive yoga. I've come today to introduce you to a yoga sequence that you can easily add into your pre-training session. So when you're starting to warm up and you're moving around, maybe you're finished running around the hall, or doing your twists and your turns and your jumps, or maybe you're looking for something a little bit extra just to stretch out the whole of the body to warm up. I've got a little sequence called Sun Salutations, or Salute to the Suns, which is a warming up sequence of postures, and we do it both sides to maintain balance. So I'm going to come to the front of the yoga mat. You don't need a yoga mat. This is here just to create the space, okay? But it's a case of doing the yoga on a firm surface where you're not going to slip or anything like that. So coming to the top of the mat, we're going to inhale. I'm going to breathe in and take the arms all the way up. And then as we exhale, we're going to bend the knees and lean forward and bring our hands down to our toes. So we're in a forward fold. And then inhale, we're going to lift our chest up and rest our hands, place our hands on our knees or on our shins. And then exhale, coming back down onto the floor. This time we're going to step that right foot back. Okay, and maybe have a little rocking motion for those hips. And then bringing the hands maybe flat onto the ground as you take that left foot back and come into our plank pose. So the fingers are nice and widely spread on the mat. Knees down and tuck your toes and lower yourselves down onto the mat. You can roll your shoulders back, squeeze those shoulder blades together. Inhale and push up, lift the chest up, and then exhale, coming down. This time we're going to tuck our toes under, push up with our hands, our bottom coming back towards our heels as we use our legs to come up into down dog. So making sure the hands are shoulder width apart and your feet are hip width apart, and taking your bottom back towards your legs so that you're not putting all the weight through your hands. It's okay to bend your knees like mine, because my heels won't go on the floor. And then we're going to lift our right leg up, bring it forward so it comes close to our hands, followed by the left. So walk them a little bit further forward, bending those knees as we inhale and come all the way back up. Bring our hands back to heart center. And we'll do the other side. So as we inhale, those arms come up. As we exhale, they come forward, touching the toes or the floor just in front. Inhale, halfway, nice flat back. Exhale, hands down to the floor. This time the left foot steps back. Adjust those feet as you need to and gently rock. Just give a little bit of movement in the legs. And then placing the hands flat on the floor if they're not already. Take that right leg back and adjust your position so you're in plank again. Knees down and tuck the toes and lower yourselves back onto the floor. As we roll those shoulders back, lifting front of the chest. Exhale, come back down, tucking those toes under as we push through our hands, using our legs to push our bums up into the air, into that triangle. That's it. And feel the stretch in there. If you want to, you can press your heels, lift them up and down. They call that walking the dog. But feel the lengthening through the whole of the body. And then with the left leg, we're going to lift it up and bring that forward, close to our hands, followed by the right. So we're back in that forward fold. Inhaling, coming all the way back up. And hands back. Center. So take a couple of breaths there. That's quite a fast-paced movement. You might feel quite out of breath. You might feel your heart working hard. But just take a couple of breaths there. And notice how your body feels. So including that in your warm-up for your training session will certainly add that extra element of lengthening of or stretching the other parts of your body to get you ready for your session. Thank you. I've put together a couple of movements for post-training to look at any tightness or balancing everything out after you've spent maybe a couple of hours training or whether you've been in a competition all day. So first of all, what I would say to everyone is take a few moments just to notice how your body feels. Check in with yourself, notice whether there are any tightness or any tension. So give your whole of your body maybe a little bit of a roll, give the shoulders a roll, and as you maybe sit still or stand still, just notice how everything feels. And we're going to do 3 different movements here. So one for the shoulders, one for our hips, and one for our quads, okay, and our hamstrings. So first of all, from a shoulder perspective, you may find you've got a lot of tightness across the shoulder, and you can feel that maybe the front of the body feels quite closed and the back is quite open. So first of all, just roll your shoulders back and squeeze the shoulder blades and hold those hands together. Okay, so we're opening out the whole of the front of the body. That's it. Squeezing those shoulder blades together. You can count to 5. You can repeat this a couple of times, so counting to 5 and then letting go. Bring the arms around the front. So this time, we're opening the back and we're closing the front of the body. And we'll pay attention to some shoulder mobility. So let go of those shoulders. Grab your table tennis bat case. No specialist equipment required here. And we're going to lift this. So make sure your bats are not in there for a start. I've just pinched my son's. And we're going to take it up over your head. And with the opposite hand, catch hold of it. So if I come to the front, you can see, I will turn around so you can see what's going on. So we're looking at our shoulder mobility. So if I turn around, this is what it looks like. That's it. And do a few repetitions of this movement. And notice the tightness, how easily you find catching that back case, or how difficult it is, how close your hands are. So take a few moments to sort of check in with our bodies, okay? Just to have a feel for what's going on. And as we come into our hips, coming into our hip flexors, take those feet just a little bit wide, with our feet pointing out to the side. We come into our goddess pose, for all you lovely ladies there, and bring your hands together as a point of stability, because when our hands touch like this, it creates a bit of stability in our upper body. And we're going to bend those knees, okay? So we're creating the movements here, strengthening those legs, and we're going to have our lovely goddess pose. And then exhale and straighten up. Fantastic. And again, bending down. Lovely. And then straightening up. Fantastic. One more time. Bending down. And coming all the way back. Lovely. And let those hands come down. And also working on our hips and our legs, so working on our quads and our hamstrings, is our warrior one pose, which is a lovely lengthening pose. So if I show you face on first of all, and then I'll show you on the side. So face on, step 1 foot back. Okay, I'm gonna have to move the other way. And bend that front knee. Okay, so you can see my back foot is on the floor. My front leg, the knee is bent. And we're going to inhale, take our arms all the way up. So from the side, this is what it looks like. So from the side, 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, bend that front knee, and inhale, and take those arms all the way up. So this is working on the front here, so our hip flexors, our quads. You'll feel the hamstrings as well, and they're working on the core. Lovely, because we're working those muscles nice and strong. Exhale, bring those arms down, bring the legs back to the front, and we'll do the other leg. So I'm going to come to face the other side so you don't see my back. So stepping back with the other leg. That's it, so the heels on the floor, front knees bent, so we're lengthening here. Yeah. Inhaling, take those arms all the way up. And breathe in there. Remember to breathe out as well as in. And notice how that body feels. Yeah. Well done. And then exhale. Bring those arms all the way back down. And stand forward. So bring yourself back to the starting point. And come back to the centre. Well done, everyone. So these are moves that I include in yoga classes. And specifically design yoga classes for table tennis players to help with pre and post training, targeting specific areas of the body that you use a lot, and also bring in breathing techniques and relaxation. So I hope you enjoyed those sessions, and thank you very much for joining me.